everyone, good evening, and welcome to lesson number
Three.
It's been a couple of weeks. We've had a week off because of holidays here in Israel, but we're back now, and we're very happy to have all of you here. We don't quite know who all of you are, so it would be great. We have our moderators in the chat waiting for you. Just drop us a line, say hi, say where you're from, so we can just get a little closer. It's hard enough talking to three cameras, not knowing if anyone is listening. So that would be great. Let us.
We have a couple of people who are saying, "Hey, I'm here. Hope we're having a good lesson."
That's good. That's
we're
good.
Warming up a little bit.
That's good. That's very good. It's a good habit. You walk somewhere and you say hi. It's it's a nice thing to have. So I don't even know where to start. We have a lot of things to cover. We have some questions from last week that we promised to get to. Also questions from Facebook, right?
No, the lesson that you were here last time, we answered those questions already from last week. So now we're taking the Facebook questions.
Amazing. Okay, so even better. So we're going to answer some questions from Facebook, from the Facebook group, which I know we started, right? So
yeah. There's a lot of action, and we start to accumulate some questions there, because it's a little bit confusing. You don't have one place to throw all the questions that you didn't get an answer to during the lesson. So we start throwing them in Facebook, and I guess in the meantime that was okay. But we just want it to be clean. So any questions that you have, just throw them in the chat during the lesson. And that's where we can just take all of them from one place, and we can easily copy and paste. Also, Facebook, it's hard to copy and paste the questions, so it just becomes extra work. So we just decided to tell you guys to put them all in the chat during the lesson. And for right now, since you've already asked some questions, we took them from Facebook and we gathered them here. There's about 10 questions or something. So
very good.
We'll answer them in a little bit.
So we'll touch on that. So last week we talked about, 2 weeks ago we talked about perception of reality. We talked about a little bit about how we perceive the world, why it appears to us the way it appears, why, for the most part, it doesn't look so great, right?
It's not looking good.
They're nice moments, but for the most part, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't seem right. And we learned what's the reason for it, this is how our uncorrected vessels perceive the world, and that Kabbalah teaches us that if we want to see the world as it truly is, as a place full of the abundance of the Creator, that force that created everything, we have to correct ourselves, right? Correct our intention. More accurately, that's the process that we undergo as we study. We draw the light. We talked about what the light is. It's a force. Again, everything Kabbalah speaks only of forces, nothing mystical. Some of the things we can't perceive yet, we can't sense yet, because we do not possess the right senses, the right vessels of perception. But through the study, we aspire to reach that new degree, and the light works on us and grows us exactly the same way that little children grow. They don't know what it means to be older, right? All they see is us, adults, and they aspire to be like us. They play in being an adult. They play the next degree of their development, and by doing that, they intuitively, instinctively, so to speak, through the program of nature, they draw these forces that work on them and work on their inner components, or on their genes, and on their all their components, and they grow, they develop. So they receive the influence of the environment, and they continue to grow in the right way, all thanks to this system that's in place. And we are invited to also grow and become what we are destined to become, which is Adam, man. Adam, a person who is similar to the Creator, from the word domeh in Hebrew. Okay, that's so. If you've ever heard the word Adam, it's not a coincidence. This word implies the destiny of humanity, which is to be similar to the Creator, to that force that created us. So we spoke about the intention, we spoke about the screen, which is the missing piece, the thing that we need in order to start working with with the light in order to start perceiving this new reality, this a complete reality that surrounds us, that right now we cannot sense because, as we said, we're lacking the senses. So today we're going to talk about, I would say, one of the most important things in Kabbalah, and that's the Kabbalah books, okay, the things that the Kabbalists left us, right? Those manuals, so to speak. But they're more than manuals. I mean, manual you can take, right? You can open it up, you can read it.
It's clear most of the time.
Yeah, sometimes, IKEA, okay, you have better manuals, worse manuals, but, you can sort of study them and you can get a sense of what's going on. In Kabbalah, we study with the heart. We say the heart understands. So it's not the mind that grows. It's not about filling our mind with facts and ideas and that's what's going to make us a better person. No, we have to change. So the books are a means to change us, okay? They help us draw the light. So we'll talk about all those things today. It's going to be a great...
And books also, there are... we kind of lost the value of books recently in our days. Everything's mostly electronic. And we don't really remember how it used to be hundreds of years ago even, but thousands of years ago is really what we're kind of aiming at when everything was kind of passed down from word to mouth. And even if you had paper to write on, which is something special back then, writing anything in a book, the book is something just very valuable, and we kind of lost that today. So it's not, on one hand, the books that we study, it's like, okay, yes, it's a holy book, like we say.
We'll talk about that as well.
What holy books mean. You just feel like it's more special. And you'll learn that just valuing the book and valuing what's in it, our main intention when we're reading the books is to try to come closer and closer to the author. And so that's what we'll talk about. Also, how the importance of really being in the same intention, the same feeling as the author, and we'll talk about that more as well.
And just to get us started in the sort of the right track to kind of clear everything that might be obstructing our view, let's start with a clip. If you can play the clip, the first clip about breaking the idols. It's a short, wonderful clip. Let's hear it and we'll continue from there.
How can one believe in some object in an imaginary world that has spirituality? After all, it's specifically written, do not make yourself an image or an idol. And how can you believe in some object that has some kind of force? How is it possible? First of all, what did Abraham do? What was the first action? To break the idols. There's no such thing. There's no stars. There's no statues. Nothing. Israel is above the signs and the symbols and the anything like that. There is nothing else other than the upper force, which is the only thing that I can come to with my intention only. All the rest are only so that I will exist in corporeality in order to develop an inner connection with godliness. Only the intention.
So we have to, as we heard in the clip, we have to really seek the true source of everything. Humanity itself is, we could say, growing up, is maturing. It's not happening all at once, of course. It's a lengthy process, but in the big scheme of things, it's actually quite short. It's a blip, really. If you consider, 14 billion years of the existence of the universe and the 4.5 billion years of the planet Earth, and how long it took for vegetation to come out, and how long that took before the animate degree appeared, and at the end of that, us humans started to appear, and we are really in the last few seconds of the cosmic year. If we had to divide like the whole year, we're like the last few seconds maybe of that year. So change is happening rapidly, although for us it sometimes it seems a little slow and drawn out. But change is happening, and humanity is maturing and is slowly willing to kind of let go a lot of the things that it used to rely on, a lot of the psychological crutches, a lot of the things, in the past, like 1,000 years ago, if you'd go to someone and say, hey, this guy, he could, spit fire on you if you piss him off. people would believe you because people didn't really have these concepts, and when someone came and introduced a new concept which was outrageous, people liked to believe it because it opened up a world of ideas, of possibilities for them. Because if he can do it, they can rely on it, and it shows them that there is something sort of supernatural above the ordinary reality they lived in. So that was a natural sort of construct of human psychology. We needed to believe things, and many religions were based on this idea, and it gave people a lot of comfort and help. But we see today that people are willing to really let go and start asking questions. Why am I here? What am I doing here? What's really happening? Don't tell me that there's some, I don't know, that's something I have to believe. No, I want to feel it myself. I want to touch it. I want to really, like science. The world is a place of laws, so I want to understand the laws. And that's what we are trying to do, and the wisdom of Kabbalah gives us the tools to do it with. And the Kabbalistic books for us are those links, the connection between this world, the corporeal world where we live in, and the spiritual world that Kabbalists have attained. And it's very important to understand that these books were written from a person's attainment. That's a very, very important point. Kabbalistic books were written from a person's personal attainment, from a Kabbalist's personal attainment. What does it mean? The word attainment in Hebrew is leasig. Okay, it comes from the word to reach out and grab something. So when Kabbalists write about something, they write about the actual experiences they've had. So it's not a theoretical thing. It's not that someone, my great-grandfather told me, and he told my grandfather, and he told my father told me, and therefore it must be true. No. Kabbalists attain, and then they pass the knowledge of their attainment from one Kabbalist to another. And thanks to these books make up like links in a ladder that we can follow and go back to the source of their attainment. Because all Kabbalistic books, and we're talking about all the holy books, that includes the Bible, that people do not know how to read, and a lot of confusion in the past 2,000 years around this particular book. But not only that, the Jewish Talmud and Gemara, if you heard those names, also books that describe spiritual worlds. If you haven't, it's okay, don't worry about it. But if you have, those are books that describe spiritual worlds. Although they sound like books that speak of law and other morals and maybe ethics, those are actually books that describe spiritual world. There's a reason they're written this way, and we'll touch on it soon as well. So all the holy books, all the books of Kabbalah, the books that we study from, the books of Baal HaSulam and Rabash and the great Kabbalists, Diari, all those books describe the spiritual worlds. And each Kabbalist adds on to the attainment of the Kabbalists that came before him, and because the human desire, the ego, grows and changes, as a result, reality changes, and consequently the books that describe the spiritual attainment, they also change to fit the generation that will need to read them. That's really brilliant if you think about it. It's like the science is the same, but the language changes, adapts, the kind of the writing.
You have to really understand the human being, the human essence, to understand where it's going to develop and then be able to suit your writings according to that.
And not only that, if you've heard of the Book of Zohar, which I think we mentioned it right in the...
Sure, yeah. We know it's just an important book.
It's an important book, but just, again, think of the magnitude of this book. Think about 10 people getting together in a small cave 2,000 years ago, writing 24 volumes, just a logistical... I mean, I was in that cave just a couple of weeks ago. I took some friends who visited. It's a tiny place. It's smaller than this room, okay? To think that they wrote 22 or how many volumes of this book back then. I mean, there was no paper, there was nothing, okay? So to get together 10 people, not one guy who's, trying to be a writer, 10 people, 10 Kabbalists writing together from their attainment in a cave, these 24 volumes on parchment, and then they're concealing this book. Okay, it was written, but they're not publishing it, they're not giving it to anyone, they're hiding it. They're hiding it, why? Because a Kabbalist writes for the world. And how it's going to be published and where and to what end, it's not on him.
Doesn't depend on him. He's out of it. He did his work and that's
exactly. They needed to publish to reveal this knowledge, and now it's in the world. They conceal it, and through some amazing adventures, maybe we'll have time to touch on it today, this book is then reappears 1,000 years later, and then it's passed down from Kabbalist to Kabbalist until we have the book of Zohar that we have today, which is only a fragment of the original, however many volumes that were written, and that's enough for us today. But it speaks of our days. It's a book that was written 2,000 years ago and talks about our life today. How? And
it's another thing that it's like, the thing is that we have to go, when we're reading these books, and I mentioned it before, that we have to really enter that they're written with so much emotion. When we read it, a lot of times it just feels dry. There's a taste of grass, as sometimes it's described. And but some other days, you read it and it feels like it's just full of abundance and full of just emotion. And that's just the very, very small, thin layer that you're able to grasp from that. It's like you write yourself some notes, something like really important. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you have like a really deep thought. You write it down. You come back later and you look at it, and it just doesn't appeal to you the same way that it appealed to you, a few days ago when you read it. You wrote it down with so much emotion. It's because you're in a different emotional state. And these Kabbalists are writing it from a different emotional state, and you can't identify with their emotional state, which is why when we read them, we want to try to identify that, and we'll learn about how to do that also. But it's not just a book. When he talks about the 10 people in the cave, they're undergoing so much emotion, and they're writing with so much concealment, but it's such an expansive reality that they're just writing about that we have no taste in it because we're not in the same emotional state. So just the importance of the books.
No. It's a world. We'll try to touch on as many aspects of the Kabbalistic books as possible. Maybe we have an excerpt to read. This is from Kabbalah for the Student, the big green book, if you have it.
Believe us, we have it here. You're also supposed to have it, but somewhere we forgot it.
Yeah.
I have it in electronic format.
Maybe the guys in the back will have a copy for us, or maybe they could just show us on the screen. They could show a slide of it.
Sure, it's good. It's a green one. You can't miss it.
Yeah, you can't miss it. But regardless, we want to try to explain the way Kabbalistic books work. So Kabbalists write, they found a great way. They've attained a world that's outside the realm of our world. Okay, it's like another reality. So how can you describe another reality with words that are in another reality? Okay, think about it. You're trying to, it's almost like trying to explain to a blind person what you're seeing. Okay, oh, I see the sky is blue. It's like, what is blue? It's this color. No,
we can't imagine that.
You can't imagine that, right? And the sun is shining, and the flowers, and it's impossible. I mean, he doesn't possess even the concept by which to understand your description. And it's a similar thing. But because Kabbalists describe the spiritual world, and the spiritual worlds gave birth to our world, as we touched on probably earlier in the course. I mean, in the fundamentals. Or is this fundamental? This is fundamental. Okay. Yeah. So the spiritual worlds, really, each world gives birth to the world underneath it. I know there's a lesson on it later on. And our world really is a result of that. So there is a direct connection between our world and all the preceding worlds. So Kabbalists were able to talk about something that's in a completely different place using the language of our world. So it's called the language of the branches. In fact, we can maybe make a small drawing this time. So if we have, let's say, one, three, okay, so we have, I'm just writing, maybe you haven't heard all these terms, that's fine. Just work with me here. So we have the world of Adam Kadmon, we have the world of Atzilut, we have the world of Bria, Yetzirah. Maybe those names ring a bell, maybe not. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Don't stress about it. And so we're like here, like we're like right beneath. Okay, this is our world, you can say. Okay.
That means our perception of the world,
Exactly.
how we view the world.
Exactly. It's important to remember Kabbalists don't speak of anything geographical or astronomical. Everything happens inside the desire. But what's important to note is that things happen here, okay, in these upper worlds, and this is called the root, okay, like in a tree. And what happens? These phenomena, we can't even say, but these forces that work here, they cascade down through all the worlds.
Different layers, different concealments.
Yeah.
Everything's hidden by layers of concealments.
Exactly. Less and less light, okay, if you've heard that term. And they appear as objects, as forces, as phenomena.
As if physical things in this world.
Exactly. So every root has a... Where's that thing that just points?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
No, that's not here.
Stylus, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Got lucky.
There you go. So everything here, every phenomena, every force, every spiritual force is a root for something that's happening in this world. Okay, a tree that we see. Oh, it's a tree. Oh, this is a cup. This is a cat. This is a rock. Anything and everything. So these things that we see in this world are really the expressions of the forces that are working on the root level.
And there's no space and there's no time. That's another thing. You always have to kind of combine all of these things. And so these are really just, if our world exists below the speed of light, sometimes we say, then they're shining and they've already occurred.
The best way, Dr. Lightman uses this analogy, and it's good. Just like you look at a computer, okay, and you know there are no people inside the computer. We're not inside the computer, okay? We actually exist somewhere, and through a series of electric forces that are, capturing our image and transferring through the... until they reach your screen, okay? The same thing is exactly happening with the spiritual world. There are forces, real forces that we cannot see. They're operating somewhere in Adam Kadmon, in the very top of the system, and the effects of these forces appear literally on our screen. Okay, there's like a screen here in the back of our head, and that's where we receive the information. We talked about it in our last class, right? So we perceive a world of solid objects, of still, vegetative, animate, all those things, but they don't really exist. We just see the branches. That's Kabbalah. And the important thing is that every branch has a root. So a glass, a cup, let's say, which is designed to contain something, all that, actually has a spiritual root of something that gives birth to what we see as a cup. And there's a relationship between them. We don't know the relationship. We have to attain it. Kabbalists have attained it. So they can use this language of the branches, which is our everyday words, glass, pen, computer, whatever, tree, camel, guy on a donkey, doesn't matter.
Talking about the readings in the Zohar and the books that you would read.
Everything you read there, it all speaks of those spiritual qualities. So, for example, when you read about a donkey, in Hebrew is the word chamor, okay? It comes from the word chomer, matter. And the matter of creation is what?
Will to receive.
Exactly. It's a desire. So whenever you see a donkey in those books, don't think of this animal, think of your will to receive. It's what it is. So they had this language that they were able to now talk to each other, and they say, hey, I saw a donkey.
I'm in attainment too. I know what you mean.
Exactly. So that's how it works. So that's how these books are working. They're describing these spiritual worlds using our language. So first of all, understand that these books are speaking only of the spiritual world. There's nothing, I mean nothing in those books that speaks of our world. Maybe we can read the first excerpt and it will start getting us into, because, and we will get to those questions. We'll take a little kind of breather in the middle. We'll take questions, those Facebook questions, and come back to the topic. We'll break
There's
it up
actually the first Facebook question. To use that will actually be helpful.
Okay, so we'll get there. But let's
That was the intention?
Yes, from the writings. So it's from the Kabbalah for the Student book, page 25, the essence of the wisdom of Kabbalah. That was the intention of our sages.
Sure.
Okay.
So if you're there, you can read along. I'm just going to go ahead. That was the intention of our sages when they said, "You haven't a blade of grass below that has not a fortune, and a guard above that strikes it and tells it, 'Grow.'" That's from the Zohar. And then it says, "It follows that the root called fortune compels it to grow and assume its attribute in quantity and quality, as with the seal and imprint." And the seal and imprint he's talking about like a stamp, like a king had his ring, and he would seal his thing. So the imprint, it would make with the wax on the same design, the same image, whatever it is, just opposite.
But inverted, exactly.
This is the law of root and branch, which applies to every detail and occurrence in reality, in every single world, which the worlds are the words I mentioned here, Adam, Kadmon, Atzilut, and so forth. In every single world in relation to the world above it.
Nice. So that's how it works. Every world is really a result of the preceding world. It's exactly like a copy, like this, like a wax copy. So you can imagine. You can think of it in very simple terms. Okay, think of the will to receive. Okay, there's this quality. Okay, just a quality, and there's a light comes and it enters this quality, or rather it's in this quality and then it leaves. Okay, what's left? The opposite of the light. Okay, if this was the light and it was inside this quality, and now it left, and it left an imprint. So I can from the imprint I can say, oh, there was something here, but it was like the opposite of what I have here. Okay, and this process continues from world to world,
meaning
to world to world.
It flips again, it impresses again, and turns around. If you've read about the 4 phases of direct light, you say, which is the most primary thing that we learn. The light comes, it receives it, has a reaction to that. It doesn't want to receive, it wants to be a giver like the light, and it does this a couple of times, which that's also represented in each of these worlds. Those worlds also have the similar qualities to the 4 phases, and we'll talk about that again later on.
And it's important to, it's not that, it's not a simplistic system in the sense that, so our world is a corporeal world, so everything opposite must be spiritual, right? So the opposite.
You forgot to mention that the program that reads the image of the people on the screen, the program, you have the hardware, which everything happens, all the calculations take place, and then it goes through some software, and then we're able to understand what it means. The software that we read is ego, so it doesn't matter what happens in the outside world, whatever way we interpret it, it's still going to be happening through our ego.
Yeah, it's really happening on every level. Every particle is inverted. It's not just a reverse image. That's just a metaphor. Okay?
It's opposite. We don't understand we don't even understand what opposites are, like lightness and dark.
We don't have we don't have the reference. That's why we're here, because we're stuck inside our limited picture, as you remember from last lesson, of the will to receive. That's the only image we have. So we need the light to create in us this new quality. And only from this new quality, from the contrast between the qualities, we can begin to make sense of the true reality. Let's read another excerpt about the, to continue from, thus there is not an element of reality.
This is, what page is this on?
It's still on page 25.
Same page 20, so it's a little farther down.
Yeah.
Thus there is not an element of reality or an occurrence of reality in a lower world, Adam Kadmon's a higher world, Atzilut's a lower world. In a lower world, that you will not find its likeness in the world above, as identical as 2 drops in a pond. And they are called root and branch. That means that the item in the lower world is deemed a branch of its pattern, found in the higher world, being the root of the lower element, as this is where that item in the lower world was imprinted and made to be.
Exactly. So, Baal Sulam describes to us in clear words, as clear as we can understand, the condition of our existence. So we know that if we want to understand what's going on, what's really happening, we have to go back to the root, right? Just like if you want to understand why there's some weird stuff showing on your TV, you have to go to the guys broadcasting it and whoever produced the content and made the show and hired the actors and wrote the script and everything. So it's pretty much the same thing, except it's happening on the level of our perception of our reality. But that's what Kabbalah is teaching us. It's teaching us how to receive the complete. Kabbalah means to receive, right? How to receive, how to perceive the true image, the true picture of what's going on here, of our life.
We have this inclination also to just want to, we're constantly aspiring towards truth. We don't want to, even if we know something is fake, we want to know what's on the inside. We want to know how it works. We want to know the meaning of life. At the end of the day, we just want to know the meaning of life. We don't care about this fancy packaged things. We really want to know the essence. We want to know true. What is this place that we live in, and what are we here for? We're done with all the wrappings and everything.
Exactly.
That's what it's called, to attain the root.
So I'm doing another simple drawing without the world, just to make it a little easier. So is that clear? No, I don't know if it's clear. Sorry. Do it like that. Bestowal. Okay, so this is bestowal, this is reception. And as we said, everything here, there's all these different spiritual forces working here. I don't know what they are. All I know is that something is cascading down to this world, and it's causing everything I see and everything I experience. But what is really happening, I don't know. And why? Because there's this barrier between the two worlds. There's a barrier here. And I need to cross over to the other side if I want to understand what's happening. Okay? Here. This is where the Creator sits, to use a human term. Okay? Oh, that's terrible. Sorry. Wrong width. This is where the Creator sits. And this is where I am. Okay? And if I want to reach this other side, what needs to happen? Remember, we talked about the law of equivalence of form. If I want to feel any phenomena, including spiritual phenomena, I got to acquire spiritual vessel. I have to have it in me, okay? So if I know the Creator is the law of bestowal, of love, of giving, of everything, and I'm stuck here in reception, I have to acquire this quality of bestowal. I can't change the basic matter of who I am, the desire to receive. That's what I am, right? That's how I was born. But I can acquire an intention, the screen that we mentioned, reflected light, as you will read somewhere. All these things are done by the light. So I need an external force that will change me and raise me to this place. Now all these things are happening inside the person. This world stays as it is. Nothing changes. I change. Okay? It's very important to note. Nothing is going to come down from the skies and lift me. None of those things. Rather, I'm going to change. And as I change, my reality is going to start to change. It's as simple as that. It sounds amazing. It is. but that's what it is. you change the glasses, we talked about it, and suddenly everything is clear and the world looks amazing because I'm wearing the corrective lenses, right? The same thing has to happen with us. And how do we do this? We need this light. We need something, an instrument. And that's why Kabbalists wrote a book for us. So, so just to recap where we are right now. So we talked about the spiritual world. Where is that? Talked about the spiritual world, where we are, the corporeal world. This is the place of the roots. That's where the roots are. All right, again, roots, and that's where the branches are. Again, the branches are an expression of the roots. They're not the same thing. You can't say that, oh, the donkey is a spiritual animal. No, but it's an expression of the will to receive. When you're in attainment, you can start to see how those forces interact, even from the elements of this world, but not until you're in attainment. Otherwise, you're going to be very confused. Don't try to do it. Don't try to say, oh, this donkey is a will to receive, and my will to receive. Don't go there. It's just confusion. So just understand, for now, how the system is made. So we have the roots here. Everything appears in our world, right? All the spiritual forces create the corporeal phenomena that we see here, and the Kabbalists who have attained the upper world by attaining the quality of bestowal, they tell us about it, and they use the language of the branches to talk about all these spiritual phenomena. So they use words from our world to talk about spiritual concepts. Okay, that's what we have so far. Let's take some questions. If we don't have questions on this, we'll go to let's do some Facebook questions, see where we are, how we're doing.
There's some questions on that, we could say.
Okay, let's kind of try to,
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, exactly. We're to just kind of do that a little bit. We have some questions about the ladder, which you could say is a little bit, it's kind of connected. We have questions about Sfirot, which we'll also talk. There's some questions about Rabash and studying in the group. You mentioned we don't know how to read the Bible. Maybe we could answer that because that's very pertainable. Maybe take that real quick. Okay, what do you mean that we don't know how to read the Bible? What does that mean?
Okay, so again, you can imagine this. Tomorrow you go to the library and you take out all the book of on physics. Okay, there's like this 10 books on physics by Lifshitz and these other physicists, and you open them up, and they will describe a world, okay, full of, and now they're going to be using a lot of words also from our world, from our everyday world, and also some other words that you may not know so well, and you can read it, but it would make no sense to you. Why? Because you're missing the experience of the physicist. So you need to have not just the knowledge of the words, you need to also understand what they imply, what they speak of. Okay, it's like another simpler example is, if those of you who are driving, before you were driving, you can open a book and it says, okay, when you come to a junction, you gotta hit the brakes and maybe shift gears and downshift gears and signal and all those things, and you could sort of assume what it means, but until you're actually in the car and you feel the forces of the car working on you as you brake and what changes as you try to steer the wheel, all those things, the book itself is useless. You can't just read the book and enter the car and drive, although it's relatively easy. But if you really take someone from a place that doesn't have cars, take someone who really grew up deep in the jungle somewhere, deep in the desert somewhere, without access to those things, who haven't even seen those things, and you place them in the car and say, here's the book, drive, it's not going to end well. So what's missing? You need a teacher that will explain to you what those words mean, how the words are connected to the actual car, and how this whole thing works together as a system, and how you fit in that system and the experience that comes with it. So the Bible, like all Kabbalistic books, all the way back to Adam, okay, the first Kabbalist, the first person who discovered the spiritual world 5,700 years ago. Okay, it was not the first man. Okay, man as a creature developed over millions of years. He was the first person to discover that there is another reality, another layer of reality. And he wrote a book, by the way. Okay, he wrote a book, and after him, Abraham also wrote a book. He also discovered the higher reality. He wrote the book about that as well. Sefer Yetzirah, it's called. Some of you may have heard of it. And then, after Abraham, several more generations after that, Moses, another great Kabbalist, came, and he also wrote a book. That book describes the entire spiritual journey that each of us has to go through. It's not a geographical journey. You don't have to go to Egypt, but you have to come out of Egypt. Rather, this is a description of the struggle of man with his ego, with his will to receive. Separation, unification, all the conditions for coming out of slavery under the will to receive, where Pharaoh is the king of that will to receive, coming out of that condition into another condition when you receive the Torah from the word O, light, or instruction in Hebrew, Horah. Okay, you receive the instructions of how to correct all your desires and continue on this journey, a spiritual journey of transformation. So the Bible really describes only that. It has nothing to do with this world, absolutely nothing. And when we read the Bible and we get very inspired by the stories with the angels and the miracles and all the rest of it, it can get very confusing. And for a couple of thousand years, it confused humanity to no end. But rest assured, it speaks only of a person's spiritual transformation, as all Kabbalah books speak of. Okay, so you have to, if you want to read the Bible, you have to read it with a teacher, and best of all, you have to reach attainment, and then it will start to make sense. But again, remember that we are changing, we're growing. So the human ego has really grew in the last 2,000 years, and that's why it's better to work with books that were written closer to us, with the exception of the book of Zohar that was written for us, concealed, and then reappeared. But all the books that are written now by Rabash, Baal Sulam, the Ari, really this is the time of correction, okay, from about 450 years ago. That's the time of correction. Those are the books that apply to us. They use a language closer to us. They're less confusing to us. We're less likely to think of angels and miracles and more likely to think of our actual correction and the light working on our vessels. So there's a great book. It's called Secrets of the Eternal Book, right? Yeah. By a very good friend of us, Semyon Vinokur. You can buy that book. It's a wonderful.
Also recommend The Kabbalist. He also wrote that's like a screenplay version.
Right.
Kind of
context. That also. I mean, that one is more of a novel. I mean, it's great.
It's just a very interesting book.
It's very inspiring. But the Secrets of the Eternal Book is really it's a good starting point to just kind of. Put some order into the huge confusion around the Bible.
It's kind of just set your head right, set your shoulders right. You're ready to walk in the right direction.
Yeah, and again, it's a whole world. We're not going to get into it, but just suffice to say, you have to be in attainment, and all those books speak of the same thing.
It's also good to mention when you talk about the Bible, and if you go back, can you go back to the previous slide? If you look here and you see all the different layers, that book was written with Moses and all these things. That was written for their time. They were much closer to the things that he was talking about than we are to the things that he was talking about. So for us it seems much distant, and when he talks about the Zohar being closer, they were written for us to identify emotionally, and we're talking about emotionally. And there's a question here actually that kind of leads into that. And then I want to read something. He says, Kabbalah books write in the language of branches. If a person can't know its real meaning, is it useful for him? So then I pulled up item 155 from Introduction to
Very good.
Yes. This is from item 155 from the Introduction to Talmud Eser Sfirot.
Study of the 10 Sfirot.
The study of the 10 Sfirot. Therefore we must ask, why then did the Kabbalist obligate each person to study the wisdom of Kabbalah? Indeed, there is a great thing in it, worthy of being publicized. There's a wonderful, invaluable remedy to those who engage in this wisdom of Kabbalah. Although they do not understand what they are learning, you won't understand what you're learning, through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they are learning, they awaken upon themselves the light that surrounds their souls. We're talking about the reforming light, and we're talking about desire. That's all that exists in reality. All that exists in reality is light and desire. If you can find yourself in some confusion on the path and you don't know where to start, you woke up in the morning, you don't know anything, it's very safe to say that all that was created was a desire, and all that exists is light and the desire and the relation between them. And that creates our reality. If you start from there, you'll start feeling, where do my desire? Who's giving me these thoughts? Who's giving me the desires? And then you can kind of shake up. That's why it's good to, in the morning, wake up and you read something that brings you back down. You're just so tied to the feeling of your body and wanting to be comfortable and wanting to eat. You can't even think about anything else. So it's good to be in a habit of going to read a book, go to the sources, and try to enter into their emotional state to get yourself out of the emotional state that you're in now. What are you drawing over here?
I'll get there in a second. This is just prep work. Don't show it yet.
Don't show it. You want me to look at another question?
Yeah, let's get another
question. Or are you
question.
trying to answer something here?
No. This will lead us to another important part. But let's get some more questions. Let's try to
okay.
through some more questions.
So then maybe
anyway, do we know who's with us? Do we have a little
I didn't get yet. I didn't
get.
Okay.
Maybe we can.
Oh wait, I think I just got it. What?
Yeah.
Yes. Email. Got it. Yeah, just got it. 53 people live with us. You ready?
Welcome everyone.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna go with the countries. Here we go. Germany, South Africa, Ghana, Spain, Norway, Bulgaria, Eritrea, definitely. Romania, Canada, USA, Czechoslovakia, El Salvador, Iran, and Austria.
Wow. Okay, so it's beautiful. We're really spanning like pretty much every possible culture on the planet, almost with the exception of the Far East. We do have friends there, so that's good. Let's continue to go through some questions. I'm sure there are a lot more questions, but let's try to get a few. Let's try to get some fundamental questions there that will help us kind of.
That's what I was going to say. I think we should continue with the flow that we're going, and then once we kind of feel a stopping point, we'll go to the Facebook questions kind of at the end.
Okay. I hear. So what else is?
I just didn't want to break the flow.
That's okay. So what else on that?
How do we perceive the upper worlds? Adrian from Romania says.
Okay, that's good. So. Is there anything before that? Because before we.
This is what you're preparing
this is
for.
What,
you want to get into that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let's see if there's anything before.
So what is the Kabbalistic language? Is it the same? Is it the same as spiritual language?
Okay, so that's good. We can answer. That's a quick one. That's a quick one. So Kabbalists wrote in 4 languages. Okay, you probably have heard everything. Everything is based around the same 4-letter formula. Okay, it's referred to as the name of God, Yod K Vav K. You may have seen and heard it. People refer to the holy name. They don't want to say it. Again, a lot of mythology and mysticism that was developed around it. Again, just based on ignorance, nothing else. That name, those 4 letters, really they represent a formula for all of reality. Everything in reality is working according to this formula. Every process, everything unfolds in these 4 stages. There's like a root action that happens, and then these 4 stages happen, and we study it in the 4 phases of direct light. You have it in the 4 worlds, starting with the world of Adam Kadmon, which is kind of the top, the root world, and then everything unfolds in 4 stages, and everything around you is the same. Similarly, Kabbalists write in 4 languages. Okay, so when they attain, they wrote about their attainment in one of those 4 languages. The first language was the language of the Scripture. Okay, that's the language of the Bible. So if you've picked up a Bible, books that were written around that time, it has that quality, right? It speaks of angels and
it has like kind of the same tone, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And the Lord said, and Abraham got up. It feels like almost like a big theater play with protagonists, and God tells them what to do, and all those, and the prophets and the wars and all. That's the Scripture. That's a language of the Scripture. That's one language. Okay, again, it speaks only of spiritual process, but in this language. Then after that came the language of the Talmud, which is more. It's a later sort of development, again, on the Bible, and it sounds a bit like laws and ethics and morals, right? It sounds, if you've ever opened one of those books, traditionally it's like we always, we make fun of it, but like a lot of the stuff is like, okay, and if you have a donkey and it walks in the field, and then someone dug a hole and your donkey fell in the hole, then who's in charge? Who needs to pay whom for the damages that the donkey suffered? Is it your responsibility because you didn't tie the donkey, or the other guys because they didn't close the hole, right?
That's a great example. That really summarizes the whole.
Yeah, that's the Talmud. Talmud is an amazing book. It really speaks of all the aspects of this world, all the world of branches, as it relates to the roots. Okay, so it's a very rich language. The Bible is much more limited in comparison, because the Talmud relates to almost everything. It speaks of practically every aspect of this world, relationship in between people, with their animals, on the still level, vegetative, animate, all the degrees, everything we see in reality. They've done an amazing work, again, speaking of spiritual terms only. Okay, it does not refer to this world.
Spiritual interactions.
Exactly. Only the corrections of the desire. But it uses this language, which was later used as the foundation for modern law and ethics and morals. But it does not speak of those things. It speaks only of spiritual development.
Meaning, if you enact those laws in your daily life, you are not necessarily keeping the same spiritual laws.
Exactly.
If you are still in the same intention with your ego, you are still opposite from the system.
Yeah, I mean, this book is based on great debate, because it's like scientists. They reach certain conclusions and they debate the fine aspects of these conclusions. So again, it was used as a foundation for modern law, because the world of roots, you can speak, you can kind of glean information about it from the world of branches. But it's like children playing with they find something, oh, look at that, it's this, it's that, but they don't really know the inner meaning of it. Anyway, but that's a very particular language, that's another language. And later on, during the time of around 17th century, 16th, 17th century, Hasidism was around, and the language of Haggadah, or allegory, I think is the best way to translate it. And that, if you open a book like that, those books sound like crazy fantasy. Really, the Bible is nothing on them. It's like they speak of kind of like modern
chariots. There's words chariots.
It's not even that. It's like modern situations. I mean, relatively modern. It's like modern day. You have a peasant and
that's why we can identify.
Yeah, exactly. A peasant and his rabbi and his community, and he leaves and he goes to sleep, and he has a dream, and a tree grows in the dream, and it really sounds phantasmagorical, as my good friend Vlad likes to say. It really sounds like a fantasy movie or sci-fi movie. It really is. Again, it's a very deep language. We don't really study it because you really have to. I mean, there's so much concealed there that it's really confusing. It's beautiful to read sometimes, to get an idea. But so that's the third language, and the fourth language, and that's the language that we're using, is the language of Kabbalah. So you have these four. I'll just write them just so you know. So you have the scripture. You have the Talmud. You have I'll write Haggadah because that's how we refer to it.
Like legend, I think maybe, is that?
Yeah, legend, allegory, all those things. Allegory. And finally, Kabbalah. And why is Kabbalah so great? Because if you open a book of Kabbalah, like the study of the 10 Sfirot, everything that was written, especially after the Ari for us, but even earlier books, they are much more scientific. They are much more focused on the mechanics of the soul, so to speak. Okay, it's really the basics of the spiritual world. You have a vessel and a screen and a light that comes to it, and the calculation and the spiritual partzuf and the light that goes in and how much light goes out and how to move from one degree to another. It strips down all the other things that are confusing, and it focuses only on the structure. It's really like a book of
spiritual action,
like with physics. So really like a book of physics. So today, for the way our ego is built, in our minds and our for the most part very intellectual, rational minds, these are the best books to work with, because they strip away everything. They allow you to focus your attention on the correction of your vessel much easier. And you'll understand why when we get into, which I think we got to get into, how the Kabbalistic books actually work. And you understand why. But these are the 4 languages that we have, and we focus on the language.
It's very helpful whenever you don't have to read something about a face or some legs or a pigeon or something that you read, because your mind immediately goes to think about that and how that interacts. If you're hearing about words that you've never heard before,
let's actually read.
I don't have any pulled up. Which one am I missing?
Kabbalah for the Student, page 27.
The wise Kabbalah.
Oh yeah, you have it. Yeah, you have it there.
Okay, it's already.
Yeah, it's because Kabbalah is such a practical study. Again, it helps us to read. Again, a Kabbalist in attainment will tell you the Bible is a practical book. It speaks of relationships and forces working in this way and that way. But for us, it would make no sense. We're so already confused with all these concepts that we grew up with that we can't possibly detach ourselves from them and focus on what's actually happening.
Even if you wanted, you use the eyeglasses. Okay, fine, I'll just take the glasses and now I see a different world. It is that easy, but at the same time, it's not that easy, because I can't just want something that I don't want.
Exactly.
We'll talk about that later.
So let's read about that.
Am I reading all the way down?
Yeah, it's a nice chunk, but it's important.
Okay. Conveyance from a wise Kabbalist to an understanding receiver. Thus wrote the Rambam, who was a Kabbalist.
Maimonides, you may have heard the name. Yeah.
And this introduction to his commentary on the Torah. And I bring with true covenant to all who scrutinize this book that all of the clues that I write in the secrets of the Torah, I resolutely assert that my words will not be grasped by any mind or intelligence except from the mouth of a wise Kabbalist to the ear and understanding receiver, such as the Rav Chaim Vital wrote in his book, To the Tree of Life. He was the dictator for the Ari.
Dictator.
So he wrote this, and also in the words of our sages in the Haggadah. One does not study the Kabbalah on one's own unless he is wise and understands with his own mind. Their words are thoroughly understood when they say that one must receive from a wise Kabbalist. But why the necessity for the disciple to first be wise and understanding with his own mind? Moreover, if he isn't so, then he must not be taught, be he the most righteous person in the world. Additionally, if one is already wise and understands with his own mind, that need has to be, what need he
has he to learn from others?
Has he to learn from others? From the aforesaid, their words are understood with a simplicity. We have seen all the words and utterances our lips pronounce cannot help us convey even a single word from the spiritual, godly matters above the imaginary time and space. Instead, there is a special language for these matters, being the language of roots and branches, indicating their relation to the upper roots. However, this language, though extremely suitable for its task of delving into the studies of the wisdom more than other languages, is only so if the listener is wise in his own right, meaning that he knows and understands the way the branches relate to this book, to their roots. It is because these relations are not all clear when looking from the lower upwards. In other words, it is impossible to find any deduction or semblance in the upper roots by observing their lower branches. So that's what you were talking about. You can't expect to learn something in this world about the spiritual world from looking at this world. Quite the contrary, the lower is studied from the higher. Thus, one must first attain the upper roots the way they are in spirituality. above any imagination, but with pure attainment. And once he has thoroughly attained the upper roots with his own mind, he may examine the tangible branches in this world and know how each branch relates to its upper root in the upper world, in all its orders in quantity and quality.
Again, very poetic. It's a little difficult, this piece. However, the bottom line is very simple. From looking at our world, if you can look at the drawing, from looking at our world, you cannot understand this world. Rather, first you have to rise to the level of the spiritual world, and then you can begin to understand our world. That's how it works. Let's take another question before I go into kind of the heart of the lesson, the solution to our problems. Let's take another question.
Before we get too far from that, there is one from Facebook that I wanted to get before we get too far from this.
No, we're not. We're staying.
He wants to know what Sephirah is, which that's good because when we talk about upper,
it's easy. Sephirah is from the word sapir. Okay, it's actually like sapphire. It comes from the same word, which means something that illuminates. Okay, what is it? When the light enters the desire, we say that the light shines in the desire. Okay, what does it mean? It means that I feel something. Okay, if in very crude terms, if I am hungry and I eat a piece of steak and I taste, that feels good. I taste the pepper, the mushrooms, whatever. I taste it, right? So my vessels are now shining with the qualities of the steak. Okay, and I can say, what is it? That's a filet mignon, okay, for example. Similarly, Kabbalists have identified that every structure, the spiritual world, is really made of these 10 qualities, 10 different qualities of light shining inside the vessel. So we can't speak of the light. The light is abstract. But there are 10 fundamental qualities, not 9, not 11, as Kabbalists say, only 10 qualities that basically represent this different reactions of the vessel to the light. Okay, so we say, the light enters here, and say, this is chesed, this is grace. This is chokhmah.
It has a different flavor.
Wisdom.
It tastes different. You can differentiate.
Exactly. And so they're really the components. They're like the elementary particles, you could say, that make up the spiritual unit. Okay, which is the partzuf. Okay, so you see the word sphira repeating many times. It really helps the Kabbalists speak of that. Of their attainment in a way that, again, they can use the language of the branches by using words like chokhmah and bina, which is like wisdom and understanding, and this is glory, and this is all these different words which later, again, were made into a great big confusion. But those are simply different attainments of the light inside the vessel. Okay, and they're repeated when you start to study the structure of the spiritual worlds and the partzufim, those units. You see that they're always made of 10 sfirot. Everything has 10 sfirot in it, always. And every sfira has 10 in it and 10 in it. It goes to infinity, so to speak. For us, we're really just interested in kind of the ones that are close to us. That's the one that we can study. Okay, but it's like scales. Okay, it's like a measuring scale. So sfira is the basic elementary particles of the light shining inside the vessel.
And why 10? 10, you can't have it like it's written not 9 and not 11, but 10, because 10 is the Havaya, it's the Yud Hey Vav Hey. It's all the same. It's all the same, and that is the Creator. That's what you want to attain, and you can't attain anything without the 10.
Yeah, you will sometimes hear that there are actually 5. Okay, just like the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. So there's the root, right, and then 4 phases in addition. That's 5. But in this structure, the fourth sphira, the fourth quality, is actually like a miniature representation of a higher quality, and it has 6 sphirot in it. In total, they make 10. I don't want to confuse you, and it sounds like I already did. For now, just remember what a sphira is. It's the light shining in the vessel. It's the impression of the vessel from the light, and in total we have 10. later on in more advanced classes, you'll understand the structure, the actual why is it 10 and not 9, not 11, not some other number. And by the way, and you see it everywhere. You see that, we have 10 fingers, 10 toes, and a person cannot really grasp more than like 10 qualities simultaneously. They've done research on how many, when you drive in the highway, how many pieces of signage you can identify and all those things. It corresponds to kind of the core of our hardware, so to speak. It's how we're wired to see the world. It's interesting. What else?
Well, we can check out.
Let's go.
But you wrote something down here, Noah. This new slide.
I want to talk about the real kind of the thing for which we're here. So we said we're stuck in the corporeal world and we want to reach the higher world. How do we do it? So Kabbalists tell us in this system, in the system of the worlds. Let's see it. Okay, so we have world of Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiyah. Those are 5 worlds. Okay, from the highest world, highest being the world of Ein Sof, okay, and the lowest world being the condition we call the condition we call our world. Okay, and what's the difference between those worlds? The difference is that here you have, let's say, 100% of the light is available, visible. Okay, and in our world we have 0%. It's almost 0, but for our purposes we call it 0. Okay, so what's happening here in every world from the word olam in Hebrew, from the word ha'alama, concealment. Okay, that's simply. So what's a world? A world is a state of reality that has less and less light compared to the world of infinity, the starting point. Okay, the place where it all starts from the source, the original force. The creator started the process of creation here. 100% light, and by a certain process, which we're not going to get into today, the light was diminished. Every world diminishes the light. Okay, here we have 100%, here we have 80% of the light, here is 60, 40, 20, and like we said, 0 in our world. Okay, so it's a process of diminution. Okay, less and less light. So we're in this world. In this process, there was a system called Adam HaRishon. Okay, Adam HaRishon is our soul. Okay, that's the soul that was created. That soul, in a certain process called the shattering of the vessels, that soul shattered into many little pieces. Okay, many little pieces. Okay, this is of course a illustration of a process. Nothing happened again in the geographical space. Nothing happened in space and time. This is before space and time. This is all happening in where? In our desire. So there was one desire. Adam HaRishon was one desire, one complete, united desire, where all the pieces of that desire were working in harmony. Okay, you can imagine this perfect give and take, like in a healthy human body. Okay, where all the cells are taking exactly what they need. They give exactly what the body needs. Every piece exists only to support the bigger body. Okay, and what do you get? You get this amazing machine and life and this quality that we can sit here and talk and all the rest of it. So similarly, Adam HaRishon was this amazing harmonious system that existed in the world. So first the worlds were created, and in those worlds, this soul of Adam HaRishon was created. Okay, again, it sounds very picturesque, you're inclined to imagine a world somewhere and in it something. No, it's all happening inside the desire. And this desire broke. Okay, as we said, it broke, and it's the pieces. What broke was the connection between the pieces. Okay, it's like now I have a sensation that there's me and there's Chris here. Kabbalists tell us it's not really so. It's actually only a a problem in my perception. We're actually part of this one system. But in our perception, we're broken in all those pieces. Okay? And that's the state of our life in this world. Each of us feels himself as an individual piece. Okay? In this world. Okay, this is me. This is here. This is I. This is Leo. And this is Chris. I'm going to be closer to Leo, okay?
Yeah, thanks.
And other people, and another I, and another I. And each one thinks he's separate and unique, and he lives in this world. But Kabbalists tell us, no, this is only a perceptual issue, okay? We're actually all part of this soul, and our work, as we said repeatedly, is to correct ourselves. When we correct our desire, the only reason we have that perception is because we're broken. We have this desire to receive in order to receive, okay? We only we experience our life in this one-way motion, right? What's good for me? What's good for me? This quality, and that makes us blind to everything else. So the Kabbalists are those people who corrected their desires and have reached this degree of Adam Rishon. So in this soul, in this collective soul, you can say, you have the corrected souls of the Kabbalists. So a Kabbalist, whoops, okay, sorry, correcting the world here. Okay, so you have a Kabbalist is someone who corrected his individual soul. Okay, there's an individual perception, a collective perception. Again, let's keep things simple. Kabbalist is someone who managed to climb from this world all the way to his corrected state in Adam Rishon. What happens when they get there? Here, in this world, but inside their desire. They write to us. They write a book. Okay, so the Kabbalists are very nice. They were very, very considerate. They wrote a book. Okay, here a book. Nice. Okay, and this. They wrote this book. Okay, make sense? Yeah, I can see it. Okay, so they wrote a book, and why is it not? Okay, I sort of smooshed Chris.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
Okay, here, Chris, we'll bring you back. Chris and Leah. So they wrote a book. Okay, in this book, they describe this corrected state where we're in perfect connection. Okay, the desires are all connected in harmony. They are similar to the Creator. They feel the light, okay, from Ein Sof, from infinity, from that state. They feel they are full of this light. Okay, this light is there. Okay, light of Ein Sof, it's called.
And they say that is to the intention to do good to his creatures. So that's what you feel. That's what they say.
Exactly. That's the abundance. Okay, so that soul is in a corrected state, feels the abundance, the light of Ein Sof, the Creator. It's very close. It's in harmony. It's in order to bestow. It's able to feel the Creator through the law of equivalence of form. But we're here. We're all the way down here. We can't feel it. We're stuck here in this world. Mm-hmm. We're stuck under this barrier. We can't even, So Kabbalists, they write a book about it. But it's not just a book. It's a book that really describes the corrected system, using these different languages that we said, right? The Bible, the Talmud, the Agadah, and Kabbalah. So they write about the system of the worlds, everything that happens. They write about the whole ladder that we have to go from our uncorrected state back to this corrected state. So, for one, imagine that, I'm sure all of you read, I'm guessing, right? You grew up, you read a great adventure book, right? Going on a boat somewhere, sailing to the other side of the world,
finding... You really get into it.
Right? you read the book as a kid especially, and you get into the book, right? You really, like, you live the characters, you feel like you've lived a lifetime, right? You really, I read Gulliver.
Oh,
all those,
sure, Boxcar.
yeah, sci-fi books, adventure. I mean, again, to each his taste, but it doesn't matter. It could be a romantic novel. You really fall in love. You really feel the characters. You identify with all their pains and their triumphs and their love and the broken heart, right?
Yeah, but it's also even though we're talking about books, but it's also the same thing with TVs and movies.
It's the same.
You
It's the same.
identify with the
Yeah.
characters.
Again, the book is the kind of the basic unit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Today you could say, a movie, but a movie starts as a script, so it doesn't matter.
You join their emotional journey.
Exactly. You take part. You start to live vicariously, we say, through them. So, on a very basic level, that's the first thing that starts to happen. You start to have this connection. But there's another thing. When a Kabbalist writes, he's actually conveying this light that he is feeling in this level. Okay, so the book is kind of an encapsulation of the light that exists here. So although it is just a book, the book itself is not holy. Okay, when we say holy books, why? Because they talk about the holy world, the sacred world. And what's sacred? What's holy? Bestowal. It's the upper world. It's the world that created us. That's why it's higher than us. That's why it's called the upper world, and we're the lower world. We're the result of that world. So the Kabbalist writes from this upper world to us in the lower world, and his words, the descriptions, the content of his book speak only of the connections between us. That the greater and greater degrees of connection, the more as we connect, as we begin to form these connections between us, here as those pieces begin to, we start to come closer and closer to eventually the form that exists here, which is a perfectly harmonious connection, okay, where everything is connected to each other. That's really the state that they're describing to us. It's the state of perfect connection where the upper light shines. And as we follow their words, we begin to aspire to their state. And as we aspire to their state, the light starts to shine on us. Why? Just like kids. Remember, the same reason that kids are growing, because they play the next degree of their development. Oh, I want to be a truck driver. I see my son, I have a 6-month-old son. He does a certain movement like 100 times. So he sees me, he wants to be, right? It's like, until, one day suddenly he sits up. What happened? He didn't just sit up. He invited on him these forces that slowly shape him. They develop the muscles in him and everything. And he gradually, he's like pulled. He gets this pull from above, and he starts to, by playing this next degree, it happens to him intuitively, instinctively.
But that's different when you look at animals. Animals don't have to do anything. They have this program inside them. That's the difference between humans, which is why it takes so long for a human to develop to really just be able to function in this world at all,
Exactly.
They have to constantly invite that.
That's a lesson for us. That we are here, we're an incomplete layer in nature. We are the in-between. We're between this kind of monkey degree to the real speaking degree. We're somewhere in between. We're not really human yet. We're aspiring to be human. We're in the process of becoming human. So we're somewhere in the middle here, and Kabbalists tell us about the corrected state, and by aspiring, and just as Chris read earlier, by aspiring to be there, by reading this book, by reading these books about our future state, along with other people who have the same point in the heart, we draw the reforming light. Okay, that's an important concept. We're going to write it here in big letters.
In the light, in a good way to try to understand the light as well, it's if I'm only just this point, then I can't get anything else. I have to have aid from somewhere else to give me a new thought, to give me a new desire, to grow me a little bit. It always comes from the outside. So I'm always aspiring somewhere from the outside to be like something else, to get more forces from somewhere. And if I wanted to aspire to be like the upper, to aspire to be like the creator, then I have to read Kabbalistic books because that's what it talks about.
Exactly. Why? Because it's using my intention. Where is my intention? What do I want to become? I want to become human, Adam, right? Domeh, similar to the Creator. I want to reach that state through all these degrees, 125 steps of becoming that quality. Okay, the quality that is like the Creator. And the Kabbalists write about it, and when I read it, I draw the reforming light onto me. With the right intention, with the right preparation, in the right environment, with the right teacher, again, so I don't get confused, I hone and hone and hone my intention, and I draw the light that is changing me.
And that's another good point, is the point in the heart. For people who have this point in the heart that's turned on, we don't know why, but we want spirituality. I don't care. I know that's not here in this world somewhere. I've tried everything. I want something else, and I have to go after the Creator and bestow, and I'm willing to hear that. For other people, if the point in the heart isn't turned on, then I'm not gonna have any aspiration to want a new intention. I'm not gonna have any aspiration to do anything. It's another reason why this is like. It's a role. It's a duty. It's you have this thing, and you have to do it. You want to do it. You have to. So it's only a select few at the top. But also when you talk about the speaking and the animate and everything, everyone who's here now has this little piece awakening that wants to be this next degree.
Sometimes you'll hear in Kabbalistic books they refer to it as the surrounding light. What is surrounding light? It's the same reforming light. It's a light that for us is felt as outside of us. Again, we're using corporeal world terms because that's what we have, right? We're using the language of the branches. And that's a good thing. We can relate to something, even though it's not the thing itself. So the surrounding light works, it surrounds us. It works around us. It's like from a distance, like a light that shines from a distance. And as we work, as we read the books, as we make these efforts to connect, to follow the instructions of the Kabbalists, these lights shine on us. They work on us. They make these changes in the vessel, a new state emerges in us, and then we work with it again. We correct that, and so on and so forth. That's how we advance.
It's like our ability, this is different in the animate degree, our ability to enjoy from things that may happen in the future in this moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. I mean, that's something that only humans have. I can sacrifice some pleasure now for greater pleasure later, right? Where is that coming from? It's coming from this relationship with the surrounding light. It's a light that's not...
It's there.
It's the human ability to feel something, to feel some taste in something that's not in you yet, okay? An animal can only taste what's inside of it. I taste it, this is it.
Same with a baby as well.
Same with the baby, yeah. My baby, exactly, everything is his. If it's not in his mouth, it doesn't exist. But humans have that ability, and that's where it comes from, like a root and branch. The root is a spiritual root. We have lights that are not yet inside of us, but we're able to feel them with our vessels, just enough to bring us closer
that we
to
want
work
to
on us.
we're able to aspire to that thing that we see that doesn't really make sense to us now. I'm reading, it doesn't make sense. Even though I'm aspiring a little bit, maybe I can convince myself there's some kind of good thing there. That's enough.
That's enough to start us with, though. Let's spend the remaining, let's take like 10 minutes. We can go a little over, I'm sure. So let's take like 10, 15 minutes.
So I thought this was pretty relevant about praying. If we're talking about, we're kind of talking about actually the action of praying.
Okay. Yeah, we can touch on that.
So what is praying in the roots and roots? What's instead of what he asks, what's the connection between roots and branches and praying? Let's answer it like, what is praying? How?
Okay.
In relation to the
very simply.
Forms.
Okay. The word pray. Again, Hebrew is such a good language for it because it's so simple and it's derived from the spiritual process. That's why it's just simply. Again, there's a whole course probably on the letters and the language and all the rest of it. But the word to pray, lehitpalel in Hebrew, it's an action that one does on himself. Okay, it's not a request for something outside of me. Rather, it's a process of inner examination. So a prayer is the work of the heart. I look into my heart, and what's there is what I'm getting. So right now, every person at every moment is praying. Believe me, you don't have to go somewhere, open a book and read something. No, you're constantly praying. What are you praying for? Pleasure, for sure. So one person's prayer takes the form of maybe a new car. Another is maybe a healthy child. Another is maybe
help me break into this car. So
let me break into this car so I can steal. And let me break into your new car that I can steal it. It doesn't matter. Everyone prays. Good people, bad people, everything. It doesn't matter. Everyone wants something. That's what a prayer is. So the act of praying, meaning, so to clarify, every person in the world automatically prays. But Kabbalists, when they pray, what does it mean? They actually, it's a process of inner, like introspective process. Okay, you look inside, you see what's inside, what are the desires inside of you, and you try to arrange them in a way that will bring you closer and closer to the Creator. Okay, how do we do that? Become closer to connection, the quality of bestowal. We'll learn about it more, but just to say that's a process whereby we look at our desires and we work with them. Okay, so you look inside yourself. Okay, it's a work in the heart. Whatever the heart wants, that's what you get. So if you see the world the way it is, it means that you're praying for this world. You don't like it? Good. Change your heart. What's the heart? The desire, the seat of the desires. Okay, so that's
and if I'm praying as a Kabbalist, if I'm praying for something that I want as a Kabbalist, if I'm studying Kabbalah, I want to be similar to the Creator. For sure, if I don't have the intention to be similar to the Creator, then all the time my ego is going to be twisting me around. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're studying, you're doing this, for sure you're going to, and then 1 second later, if you're looking inside yourself, you'll see, for sure, the ego is conniving. And
I mean, look around you. Everybody prays. What? Everybody. I'll tell you something even more ridiculous. We hear it all the time. You pray as if the Creator created something incomplete, imperfect, and you ask the Creator to change. Mm-hmm. Whereas a Kabbalist understands that the light is perfect, the Creator is perfect, the world is perfect, I'm the one who needs to change. So the prayer is my own change. I'm examining myself, what I need to change in order to come closer to you. Okay?
Self-scrutiny. That's
self-scrutiny, yeah.
So, can one be worthy of such attainment? Who is worthy of attaining such?
Everyone is worthy. We have this excerpt. Maybe we can find it, but
I'll see.
See if you can find it.
Tell me how does it?
It's from the introduction to Tess. I don't know if is it item 17. No, 17 is no. It's not that.
Maybe you're thinking of letter 17.
Yeah, no. I can't remember exactly. We'll put a note on it or something. Jonathan will answer it on the forum. But the wisdom of Kabbalah is for everyone. Why? Because everyone needs to reach the Creator. It's not like some people will, some won't. Everybody will. It only depends on how quick it happens. And if you have a point in the heart, it means that you're ready to start this process. You have received the invitation, so to speak, to start on this path. Because again, it's not the wise who learns; it's the heart that has to change. Studying long texts, memorizing stuff won't get you anywhere. You see it around. You see it for yourself. There are very wise people who have attained nothing. They've attained nothing of this world. They're just very, very smart because they have a very big ego, but that's it. So, good ego is good for correction, but you still have to correct it. There's no shortcuts. So, anyone can attain. Anyone. Yeah, maybe there somewhere.
There's a lot of them. I can't. I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah. We'll try to find it. Maybe by the end of the lesson. Let's try to squeeze in a few more questions.
So how do we? So you drew this barrier before. So there's this barrier. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what is that and how do we get on the other side?
So yeah, it's moving. Okay, so the barrier. So look, the barrier is the barrier between the corporeal world and the spiritual world. Okay, what's the difference between the two worlds? This is the world of reception. My intention is in order to receive. And this is the world where my intention is in order to bestow. That's the world of the Creator. And this is my world. How do I change it? I have to acquire a new intention. if here I'm a desire. Sorry, I need this one. I'm a desire to receive in order to receive. Oops. Ooh, what is that? Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to move this thing. No, that's not it. Excuse me. This thing is.
No, is it starting to act up again?
No, it's not acting up. I'm running out of space here. I'm trying to. Oh, there it is. In order to receive. Okay, so you know what? Let me start another page just so it's easier to understand. So I have. This is me. Okay, I'm a desire to receive. Desire. That's me. I'm a desire. I desire, and I have this other piece. So this is the desire. This is the matter. Okay, the matter. And this is the intention. Okay. Intention. Okay. Making such a mess. To receive, okay, and this is the intention. The intention is the form that this desire takes. Okay, like in this world, you have matter and you have form. So this intention, that's the key. This doesn't change. Where is that? This stays the same. It's here. It's the intention that can change. So right now it's also to receive. But if I can acquire a new intention to bestow, which will ride on top of my desire, and basically I cancel this intention, I can this by acquiring this new intention, I can now enter into the spiritual world, the world of bestowal. So that's the key to crossing the barrier, getting a new intention. And how you do it? You do it by the light. Very simple. That's what we're studying here. Let's get another question.
I've kind of found something. Maybe I don't know if I'm going to find it, but it feels good and a little bit relevant to what you mentioned before.
Okay.
He said, anyone who delves into the heart of things will certainly be surprised. He's talking about into the books, at how one can achieve complete equivalence of form. So all of one's actions are to give to others, while man's very essence is to only receive for himself. So everyone is the same, but if you delve into the wisdom, if you want to engage in it, then for sure you're going to find it, just like anyone. It was built for the entire world, it was built for everyone to attain.
Exactly. One last question?
So let's, didn't have a really ending one. I wanted to find a good ending one. Maybe we have some new ones that came in. Let me look over here.
Okay, take a look. Get a couple.
We pretty much covered everything. Anything else is going to be a little bit off topic. It's
that's okay.
Let's take Kent from Holland. This looks good, actually. Kent, good job. Can you explain the connection between existing things in our world and imaginary things? Like, what are we? How do we know if we're giving? How do we know where we are? I'm giving, I know that I'm opposite, but how do I know that I'm opposite? How do I know I'm not philosophizing when I start delving into these things?
The answer is very simple. Only in an environment, only in the context of a group of people who are also interested in this material and in this work, can you start to experiment. Right now, you don't, like as you said, rightfully, you don't know. Maybe you're giving, maybe you're receiving. When, what? I can tell you that, excuse me, that we're nothing but a will to receive. But you can say, well, I'm also giving sometimes. You think that's fine. I can tell you that even your actions of giving are also actions of reception. You're in effect, you're receiving. Everyone in this world is a receiver in order to receive. Everybody only does anything to receive pleasure, period. But in order for you to reveal this, which is called revelation of evil, recognition of evil, you have to start working in a certain group. Why? To draw the light. The light will show you who you really are. It's like if you live in a house with a small candle in one room, and just around you, the floor looks fine and tidy. You think, hey, I'm good, I'm cool. This place is neat. But you start, just crack open one of the shutters in the room, and suddenly a ray of light will shine in, and you start to see this dust, right, floating in the room, and you start to see other stuff in the room, all the clutter, and you're like, oh my God, what is that? That's the recognition of evil. Now you can start cleaning up. You open more shutters, you get more light, you reveal more dirt and more clutter. But it's a process that you have to go through as you study in the group. The light will show to you who you really are. Anything?
I don't know. When do we stop? I never know when to stop.
If people are with us, I think another 5 minutes or so.
Sure, if people are with us. I can scroll down a little bit. First of all, it was very active, and there are a lot of questions. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's if you're gonna stay, then we'll say maybe we hear people read about demons and bad things in the Bible and stuff. Mm-hmm. Does Kabbalah is it worthwhile to try to decipher all these books and try to sit down and see, what do demons mean? What does this mean? Maybe just knowledge. I'm in search of knowledge and understand more about what's written. So Teklem Mahanut from ER. I'm really sorry about that. But he wants to know, how does Kabbalah explain demons? Is that even important? Is that something that we need to focus on? Is that important for the study at all?
All the words that we read about in the Bible, if you read the Bible, they all talk about the changes in our will to receive. So they're simply expressions of the changes inside our desire. Okay, there's nothing outside. There are no evil things, good things. They're all inside the desire, and they're all measured only with respect to are they bringing a person closer to connection and to equivalence of form with the Creator, or are they moving him further away? That's the only definition of kind of good and bad in Kabbalah. So the Bible, like all those holy books, they speak of these different forces, the forces that help you, the forces that reveal more of the will to receive, okay, which is opposite the Creator, and hence these are considered evil, bad, demon, ghost, all those things, and the forces that are helping a person overcome those and work and draw the light that will correct those desires. So the best thing is, again, is to start working with the light, with the material, and start to let the light change you, and then you attain for yourself all those different forces that all these books are talking about. There's nothing outside that you need to be worried about. You can relax.
Okay, so if we're already basically at the end, we can go back and run through these Facebook questions.
Yeah, we promised. Okay, yeah. We promised that.
So we answered the first one about Sephirah.
Okay.
So who's going to teach Kabbalah? Who will teach me Kabbalah?
We hope we are. I might not be here next week, but Mutlu is going to be back, and he's going to do a great job with Chris.
I'll be here as well.
All of us teach Kabbalah. We are all students of Kabbalah. We are all studying with a Kabbalist, and that's the best way to study Kabbalah, with a teacher, with the source books, and in a group.
And I remember Mutlu mentioned on the first, I think, introduction lesson. So if you weren't there, then you may have missed it. But how the importance of the unbroken chain and the link of Kabbalists from the past, from Adam Rishon until now, how this wisdom has passed from teacher to student, and we are with the teacher who was with the Rabash, who was with Bala Sulam, and that it connects to the chain. So online virtual groups to study Kabbalah. When are we going to get into that? I'm not sure.
Well, so first of all, we know there's a Facebook group.
These are where these came from.
That's a beginning of that, and I'm guessing over time your moderators will start to work with you. I really hope that at some point this class is going to move to another technology platform, which will allow us to also have workshops together. So 10 students can be in a room, can answer questions, they can start practicing with some of those conditions, those laws that the Kabbalists talk about. I think it happens maybe in a later semester, but it will happen. So right now, this is your group, the people you're with, the people that are coming to this class to study with you, the moderators, us. We are all part of this group that is studying Kabbalah and advancing.
And that's okay for now. For sure, when we start talking about the laws of society, the laws of the group work, what is a group, how do we do? First, right now, we're just kind of settling a foundation of what is Kabbalah, getting everything started. You don't need to jump in all at once. And we've been doing this for many years now, and we kind of know the best way so far. That always changes, but so far, this is the way to do it. So eventually, we will get there. So does Kabbalah really work?
You have to try it for yourself. But I will only say this. There's nothing that anyone... Remember the clip we saw at the beginning. Don't believe anyone who says anything to you. If they tell you, oh, I can show you the... Run away. All we can do is we can show you the same guidelines that Kabbalists have passed down from generation to generation. And it's up to you to apply them and to see if it truly works. There's no other way. A judge has only what his eyes can see. Remember. So you have to make a decision where to study. You study where your heart desires. Again, there's no guarantee that anyone can give you that will be. I guarantee that by the no. It's run away from these guarantees, because the only guarantee is you. So you will study. You will begin to feel changes. You will apply the advices. You'll begin to see, and you'll see more changes. And then you can decide for yourself if it truly works.
That's a good point into the next thing, because there was some. Maybe some frustration, confusion about the impressions that we share on Facebook, on the Facebook group, and they were being filtered maybe, and we have moderators. We do that for a reason. The reason is exactly what you just said. We're going through changes, and when you first start studying Kabbalah, you are filled with so many different emotions and so many different theories and hypotheses and philosophies, and you were very eager to share them with everyone else. Unfortunately, that just creates a negative impact on others, because you start kind of basically feeding them your own thoughts and your own desires, which is maybe, possibly, highly possible, counter to the advices of the Kabbalists.
Yeah. We're just a desire to receive pleasure. So, for sure, until you reach attainment, you just have a lot of different impulses coming from many different directions, creating a nice big salad. And what you want is, you really want to focus, just to clean everything out, clear out all the noise. If you want to do something, you commit to it and you try it out all the way through, right? You can't drive somewhere if along the way you keep driving to other places. You're never going to get there. So you have to pick a destination and follow the advice of those who have reached it before. Everything else is, at your own risk. But we again, as Chris said, we've been doing this for many years. The organization has been doing this for 20 years. We know what works and what doesn't. So if you're in it for the ride, we strongly suggest that you just clear everything and focus on that.
We're really trying to hurry, so they're just going to get through a couple more of these.
Yeah, let's finish those. Yeah.
Do you have any, so they want to know about in Paris, so is there a community for people studying in Paris? And as far as I know, it's only virtual in Paris.
Yeah, it is only virtual. It would be amazing if a physical group started in Paris.
They've tried. I think they meet from all over around, and they kind of come sometimes.
Yeah, post it in the forum after the lesson, and perhaps we can start making the connections as we advance.
The problem is there's so many virtual students in France in general, and they're also spread apart that there's not enough of them to come together and to throw in for a building, a meeting room, or something physical for them. Eventually it will happen, but right now we're not sure. You have to talk to the locals. So where can I buy Kabbalah for the student? That is kabbalahbooks.info, and that you can get packages with all. Oh, great!
There you go.
Nice. You can get packages. If you scroll down, you'll see all the different packages, or you can order individual books by themselves. But usually, Kabbalah for the student is bundled with a couple other books that are.
Get it. Just get that.
Right.
That book. Is it? Where is it? Is it there?
Huh? That's the thing that was here. Oh, what?
Kabbalah for the student.
Oh, Kabbalah for the student. Yeah. That's good. We should find that.
Yeah.
We'll do textbooks. That's the textbook. It's usually the first one here.
Yeah.
English. Oh, there it is. There she is. Oh, good. And it comes with this one, attaining the worlds beyond.
Yeah, it's a good.
That's a great book,
good
man.
Package.
That's a great package. See that, guys? Attaining the worlds beyond. The second one here, Wondrous Wisdom. That was written by Mike Kellogg, one of the first teachers.
They're all good books. They're all great books.
So get in there, and that's where you can get them. We can't guarantee, Paul, that studying Kabbalah will help you with your physical pain or any kind of...
Oh, I saw that question. I want to say something just because I also have...
Identify with it.
I have a friend who suffers from the same condition, and in general, I want to say two things to you, Paul. We live in a broken world, a broken system, and Kabbalists live within the system. We're not superhuman. We're not outside of the system. Rather, a Kabbalist is integrated. It feels more of the system. Right now, you only feel yourself. As you develop, you begin to feel more and more of the system. Consequently, we feel more and more of the broken parts of the system. So Kabbalists also feel that, and it's not that by studying Kabbalah you become immunized to all the conditions. No. However, the root of all the suffering is the separation, the breaking of the vessels, as we learned. And the solution to all these problems is the connection. So the sooner we move towards connection, the sooner all these conditions will start to alleviate themselves. Will they be alleviated in you personally? We can't say. It's a very, very complicated system with billions of components, all interconnected, interdependent. For sure, as you study, and that's a certainty. And you said it in your question.
He wants a different attitude towards
it. Exactly. You will receive a different attitude. You will begin to have a different appreciation for the condition. You will see how it's kind of part of your own script. There's other things that are happening, but for sure, the system as a whole, as it moves towards correction, towards greater connection, that brings about all sorts of benefits to all of humanity, not just to you. So that is our goal. Our goal is to move beyond beyond this broken state into the corrected state, and even beyond the realms of this world. I mean, Kabbalists really are talking about attaining the worlds beyond while alive in this body. So it's not like, oh, I need to now be stuck in it and suffer until I... No, there's no one that says that you can't move beyond that while in your life, but that's something you'll have to attain for yourself. Again, we cannot guarantee that for sure, but definitely the attitude will change, and you'll see the place of that of that condition in your own personal correction and in the correction of the system.
That also goes to expand on what you said earlier, that it's like I see what's happening in this world, my reaction is I don't like the way that it is, and then my prayer to the Creator is to change my condition. And so a lot of that will be my prayer all the time, because I'm connected to my body, I feel my body, I don't like feeling pain. The problem is, feeling pain is just the opposite of the true reality that exists. So all the time when you study Kabbalah, all you want to do is have a different attitude towards the Creator, a different attitude towards this reality. And instead of just wanting to, it's the Creator is giving it to me, it feels better. But really inside you're against it and you don't feel that way, but you're just saying these words. This development towards appreciating and seeing that he really is good that does good, that will be my true prayer. That will be what's in my heart. And I will be wanting to also give that back to the Creator, to have a different attitude towards Him. That's different, and that also changes along the path, and there's a lot of great things we'll learn. In the fourth lesson, we'll also learn a bunch of new things. We don't have really any more questions.
We're done. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you so much.
20 minutes after the time.
It was a big lesson. We had to get through it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So hope to see you next time. If I'm not here in person, you're in great hands. Maybe we'll meet on the other side when I go back to New York, where I live. So, so have a great day or night wherever you are, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.